Hey dudes, welcome back and welcome to the final plan with me of the first half of 22. This is going to be our June journal with me, so while I grab my supplies, maybe grab your journal, a cup of tea, a blanket, a dog, a cat. I'm trying to think of what else, maybe a plant. Plants are always fun, and let's just chill and journal together for the upcoming month. Here's a quick look at some supplies I used in my journal with me today. Most of them are pretty basic. I got a pencil, a ruler, my favorite pen, which is the Sarasa Grand in brown gray, because y'all know I have an aversion to black when it comes to journaling. And I also used some ink pads as well as an excessive number of alphabet stamps. So all those supplies will be listed below in case you want to check them out. Alright, so with the supplies out of the way, let's just jump into the good stuff, starting with the cover page. So in this journal, I've had a bit of a tumultuous relationship with cover pages. As you'll see, I tend to change them up every month because I don't really love how they work. For the most part, I just find they take up too much time for what they need to do for me, which is pretty much act as a divider page between the months. So this month I wanted to try to design a cover page that would be interesting to look at and divide up the month, but also create a bit of function and share a bit of information that I would find really interesting, which I'm hoping will help motivate me make it and not see it as a waste of time, to be honest. So for this cover page, I'm starting by creating this kind of centerpiece, which is a constellation that appears during the month. So for June, the constellation Cancer appears, and although there are a ton of different constellations that pop up, I chose Cancer because my sister's birthday is in June and her horoscope is a Cancer. So I thought it would be a fun kind of homage to her. Around the constellation, I am adding the moon phases for June. And if you're familiar with the moon phases, you may know that typically when you see the moon phases arranged in a circle, the new moon is at the top and then it kind of goes around to the full moon. But I decided to instead put the first moon phase in June at the top so that the moon phases go around in a circle in the same way the moon phases in June are going to kind of go, if that makes sense. Hopefully that makes sense. In my brain, I thought it was really smart. So that is what I'm doing around the border. And not only is this interesting and useful, because I can see kind of how the moon phases go throughout the month, but it also creates this really cool cover page image that really leans into this spacey theme that my journal is slowly being taken over by. So moving on from the cover page, you will probably notice that most of the setup from now on is the same as the previous month. The cover page was kind of the big change that I did in my journal setup. And I've been thinking about why my journal hasn't changed much lately, and I think one of the big reasons why it hasn't is not only because it works so well together, but also because I don't really rely on my journal to be a creative outlet anymore. And I think this is because I've transitioned from being a student to being in a full-time career that is very creative. I'm a designer, so I spend a lot of my time sketching and creating websites and apps. So yeah, I guess I just don't really need that creative element in my journal anymore, and that's okay. At the end of the day, my journal just has to work for me, and right now that setup is definitely working, so I'm just gonna keep on keeping on. Alrighty, so we got the cover page done, we got the calendar out of the way, and now we are moving on to the monthly log, which is kind of the brain of my monthly setup. I know I said earlier that the cover page was the only change I made to my journal, but now looking at the footage, I realize that's technically not true. I not only changed up the cover page this month, but I also changed up the stamps that I'm using for my headers, and I also actually changed up the header style, so I guess a lot of changes happened in this monthly setup. So yeah, the header style is a bit different. I decided to simplify it even more, which I didn't really know was possible, but hey, if anyone can find an opportunity to add more white space to their journal, it would be me. So here we are. I used these tall serif stamps to stamp out the date, and I also decided to ditch the double lines that I used to do in my headers and just keep it nice and bright and open and white space heavy, because I love incorporating white space in my journal whenever possible, not only to leave room for important information, but also so that my journal stays a really calm and relaxing space. By the way, I hope you can't hear my dog snoring. So my dog continues to sleep and snore very loudly and proudly, but we continue on with this voiceover because we believe in perseverance here on this channel. So I'm going ahead now and creating my rolling weekly spreads. A while ago I decided to make these at the beginning of the month and just set them all up and get them done and over with, and that is the best decision that past Kaitlin has made in a while, let me tell you. Before, I would honestly procrastinate so much on making my weeklies, and I would actually often not make them at all on the weekend, and would have to kind of rush to set them up on Monday or even Tuesday. So I've just found that for my life, setting these up in advance is way easier for me, and then I can focus on the important stuff like actually planning out my week and making sure I have all my tasks scheduled in. Right after the weeklies, I am counting out 26 pages for my daily logs. This part of my journal is probably the most unconventional part of the bullet journal method that I've changed, and this is because I actually do a day per page for my daily logs, and I do 2 days on a page for weekends. So I just go ahead and count out the pages in advance, and then as you see on the screen here, this is how the daily log looks once I've filled it out on the day itself, and I usually go back later and do the stamping for the header, just because on the day I like to really focus on just getting my to-do list down, getting my daily logs down, and adding the fun stuff later. After that, I create my notes page, and besides that, that is my full setup for June, finished and ready for a new month of planning.
Hello, Ramona. I can't shake the simplest feeling beyond the ghost. We stand on the opposite shore. Hello, Ramona. I reach through mysterious ceilings, my only hope. I look for the things I don't know. For I stand alone. Show me where the ending goes. Honestly don't. I should be the last to know. We're all in this. I stand alone. Show me